Thank you very much for that. Well, the first thing that we will do is to reduce the voting age to 16. And we've had quite a lot of debate about this. Our first hustings was at Bassingbourn Village College, so people there were not... they were interested in the idea, but it wasn't quite there yet. So we had quite a lot of to and fro about this. And the bottom line for me is that if you can vote, then vote. If you don't feel ready to vote, or you don't know enough about voting, then don't vote. And actually, that's logical if you're 16 or 60. And that is true, there are some people who are 60 who don't vote, and there are quite a lot who perhaps ought not to vote. But in any case, that is the first thing that I would do. And that has been in our manifesto for a long time. I think perhaps, if I may, it might be useful just to address the issue of tuition fees. It's still working? Yeah, good. Because I want you to hear this. Tuition fees is really a big issue for the Liberal Democrats, as I'm sure you are only too well aware. On the front page of our manifesto last time around, there was commitment that we would not bring in tuition fees if we were the governing party of the nation. Well, we weren't. So we ended up with a situation where we, as with a lot of other subjects, had to bargain with the Conservatives. And we did bargain with the Conservatives. And the reality is that we had to do something that we didn't want to do, and I'm very proud that Nick Clegg had the decency to apologise straight up for that. However, what we did do was to deliver tuition fees that were very much better than I think Heidi would admit were planned by the Conservatives, which was there should be no limit. And of course, Dan, I'm sure, would agree that it was the Labour government that brought in tuition fees to begin with. So we all have a hand in this. No one is an innocent. But I hope that the... Simon, when you are our MP, obviously, you will have both hands in it, right up to the elbows. Okay, so I'm happy to talk about tuition fees, but I do want people to realise that I personally am very sorry about it. The party is very sorry about it for obvious reasons. And yes, Simon, what are you going to do?
Well, I can tell you what we're going to do. Not go back on promises if we get lucky enough to be in government. I understand it's difficult when you're a minority player and you've been suckered in by the Tories. It's difficult. So I'm not blaming Sebastian, obviously. It's the party. But the Green Party would absolutely scrap tuition fees. So that's our clear and straightforward approach to it. We would also reduce the voting age to 16. The other thing that I think is absolutely critical, though, and this is again something that I'm hoping this time between the Labour and Lib Dems we will achieve, and that is proportional representation. Because I think there's a huge problem, and it's not just about young people, but I've been out campaigning, and I get it from young people, I get it from people who are 100 years old like us. It's absolutely horrific that people don't feel that their vote is counting, and they don't feel that they can be engaged in a system where, I've said this several times, we essentially know what's going to happen. Heidi's going to become our next MP, and that's really horrific. Whatever we say, and however much we love Heidi, as we've all become friends, and she's going to be far better than Andrew, absolutely. But that's not the point. The point is, you should be able to vote for what you believe in. And if you believe in the Green Party policies or the Lib Dem policies, you should be able to vote for them and have that vote equally count as far as the other 40% who are going to vote Tory and get their way. So proportional representation is key. The other thing is that, as I said at the beginning, the Green Party's DNA is about the future. It's about planning and managing what we're doing so that we're sensible about looking to the future. That's the key. It's about looking beyond the next Parliament. So we'd put all those together, get our hands right in it, Sebastian, and try not to go.
Just before the next candidate speaks, can everyone hear at the back? Because for some reason the microphones seem to have gone a bit dead. So can everyone hear? Okay, good. Right, Marion.
You can tell it's a younger audience than we're used to.
How to encourage young people? Well, to be honest with you, age doesn't necessarily indicate your interest in politics. Because that as you can have a mature young person, you can have a very immature older person who's looking a slightly bit bothered. But for a younger person, it actually is your future, so you should be interested and you should have a say. Now, I wonder if I actually dare ask how many people here are actually registered to vote. Thank God for that, because today, obviously, was the last day, as you will know. But then again, you are up to midnight and you can vote online. I've actually come across a few people just in the last few days, actually, who've rushed off to do it now, because they were a little bit despondent. So again, encouraging people to vote. I think that it's just a case of always telling the truth, being transparent. Politicians are not. Unfortunately, politicians, in inverted commas, have got a bad name and no one actually believes them. Which is why we're all here, actually, because we want to see real people in politics. Then perhaps everyone will be interested in how we vote and get involved. So, as I say, you can't drag people kicking and screaming to the polling booths, but hopefully, as I can see here now, you are 98% going to vote. So, thank you for your time. I'll pass on.
I'll get my coat then, shall I? For me, it seems that a lot of people, of all ages actually, feel that politics is done to them rather than by them. And I think young people, more than anyone, want to see a picture painted of the future, an exciting aspiration, a journey that we're going on together, not just I'll sit and I'll wait to be told how my life's going to be. And you're right, politicians, I think, do have a very poor reputation now, and frankly deservedly so. But that changes through actions, not words. So it's about leadership, it's about seeing somebody do something, make change happen, and you hooking onto that, and thinking, you know what, I'm inspired by that. But then that means that politics, you're part of the process. You know, very swiftly, with no political interest at all, I find myself potentially, I'm not a chicken counter, but potentially having the opportunity to be your MP, to be one of 650 people in the UK to help to make the decisions to run and lead our country. That's being in politics, not having politics done to me. And that's because I stood up and I said, you know what, I want to be part of this. And every single person needs to feel that they are one part of the UK, or you are a part of the government. Every vote makes you a part of the government, because collectively, you're the ones that put us there. So I think we need to engage, we need to lead by example and show people that there's an exciting, bright future and one that you want to come along for the ride. Because at the moment, politicians, certainly they don't do it for me, and that has to change.
Heidi, can I just... Yeah. I did you a disservice, actually. During my talk, I was talking about PR, and to underline why I said it's better Heidi be our MP than Andrew Lansley, I asked Heidi whether she would support PR, and she said yes, she would. And I think that's a fantastic step in the right direction in the Conservative Party, and I hope that when Heidi's in Parliament, she's able to push that through and follow that through within her party. So I think that's fantastic, and well done.
Thank you very much.
Right, well, I think my angle is going to be slightly different in some ways. I'm really concerned at the moment that we're becoming more like consumers and less like democratic people. I think that's a real problem. When you see, of course, sometimes people voting and paying to vote for Britain's Got Talent or something like that, I think that's a bit worrying, considering they're not getting engaged with politics, and you have to think why that is. I also think on top of that, there's another problem, and that's that younger people do get hit harder than virtually every other group in society, and that's happened over the last 5 years. And of course you can see it, EMA is gone, it's out the window. You can see that 0-hour contracts, generally are going to be worked by people who are first going into the workforce, In fact, 77% of jobs are paid at minimum wage or just up to living wage. So actually, most of those kind of new opportunities for young people are not really that good. And at the same time, they think, what's the point in getting involved? What's the point in voting? And that's really sad. And I think there's kind of a real problem there, whereby parties aren't really reaching out enough to young people. So just to kind of reiterate from, I think it's been hinted at, but Labour also believes in bringing the voting age to 16. And as a teacher, I must admit, I was a little bit apprehensive about this at first, because I thought maybe that's going to be just about sort of inspiring young people and getting them all het up to vote. But actually, one thing I think is really important, you have to educate young people as well. And if education is anything, it's setting people free so they can make decisions as free-thinking individuals. And I don't think our education always does this. The competition between schools, for instance, means we're more concerned with getting A to A stars, Bs and Cs, rather than really, I think, a whole fully rounded education. And that's not happening. And if we don't go for that, it's just a treadmill of getting these results and not really informing young people and not giving them the opportunity to get involved, then they never will. So I think that's the way forward, and education is really the root of everything. And I think educating young people and giving them the vote, through the ballot box, they will then have their say.